Hello, my name is Marty Lehman with EDL 850 School Law. This is our last assignment of the semester, our chapter summaries. I want to start by saying I really appreciate everybody in the class this semester. This is my last class actually at Fort Hays State until I decide to get my superintendentship, which I have not made a decision on yet. But anyways, thank you Fort Hays State, and thank you to our EDL 850 VC class. The first chapter talked about the control of public schools, from who's in charge to all the way to a teacher and to the student body. Of course, the president's ultimately in charge, but it goes all the way down to teachers and schools. Public schools in the state of Kansas are, of course, controlled by our legislature, which we all know that issue. But the chapter also discussed school board meetings being public and minutes being made public. If somebody wants to know anything about what went on at a school board meeting, all that is public access. It's a teacher's responsibility to understand and know the policies, rules, and regulations of their district. Every district's a little bit different, but overall our state controls what we do. Chapter 2, Instruction Curriculum Standards. One thing I learned is there's so many different guides to curriculum. The Common Core, No Child Left Behind, College and Career Readiness Goals. There are just so many guidelines to build curriculum around. And that's all they are. That's all those three things are, is a guideline to build curriculum around. Being a PE teacher, I'll be honest with you, this is going to be my weakness as a building leader, and it's something I really got to crack down on. But school districts should understand and develop appropriate testing measures to make sure students are placed in proper educational placements. And schools should set up proper means of monitoring instruction and ensuring the improvement of instruction according to the curriculum that they have designed. As a building leader, I want to monitor and evaluate the district program, assist in creating comprehensive, rigorous, and coherent curricular program, and develop the instructional and leadership capacity of my staff. I've got to give my staff time to do what they do the best, and that's develop curriculum. And as a leader, I've got to hire my weakness, and I need to make sure that's something that I'll be able to do. And then, of course, supervise instruction. Chapter 3 was about religion in schools. This is a very touchy situation, especially in public schools. I work in a very Hispanic population, so religion is a big thing for them, and the Catholic religion in particular. So you can't keep it out, and of course Chapter 3 taught us that. But as long as it doesn't interfere with the rights of others, if it doesn't interfere with my right as a Methodist to do my job, or my daughter's right as a Methodist to get an education, you can't keep religion out of public schools. Teachers and staff must refrain from any activity that does not clearly separate religion and state. In other words, I can't preach the Methodist religion. I can't promote abortion. I can't do anything like that or atheism or anything like that. I can't promote that because it'll interfere with the student's ability to get a fair education. As a building leader, all the ISLLC standards that safeguard the values of the democracy, equity, and diversity, consider and evaluate moral and legal consequences of decision making. In other words, if it's not legal, you cannot express yourself and your interests because that's not legal. Chapter 4 talks about students and the law and public schools. The one thing you need to do is make sure everyone involved with the district understands the policies and the consequences, and that means give them time to learn it. We do a student handbook here, and parents and kids and teachers sign that they got a copy of that. All teachers sign that they got a copy of the handbook and the negotiated agreement every year. All violations should be reported, and you should set up an environment to where students can feel free to report those things like sexual harassment or racial harassment or sexuality harassment, such as a straight person picking on a bisexual or a homosexual or things like that. There needs to be somewhere those students can go that they can feel confident, and they can feel like they can like it's confidential, and they feel like they can report those without being threatened. Another thing is mutual respect for everybody. teach that, preach that, preach that to your teachers, and thus they'll teach that and preach that to their students. And also, if something happens, get on it real quick. Swift action is needed to appropriate staff when allegations are made. Just because it's fresh in everybody's mind and everybody knows what's going on and can make swift action on it. As a building leader, again, I'll help create an environment where students and staff have mutual respect for one another, no matter what their sexuality is, their race is, their religion is. We just discussed religion. Give teachers and students time to learn it. Go over the student handbook every August and make sure that what they sign for, they understand. One thing we do here is we do a bilingual, we do a Spanish-speaking or Spanish-written student handbook, so parents can sit and read it and sign off on it and know that they read what they read. Build and sustain a positive relationship with families and caregivers. Make them comfortable enough to where, if there's issues, they can come in behind closed doors and confidentially, discuss things with you. And then build and sustain productive relationships, ISLLC 4D, with the community partners of the, everybody needs to be able to feel safe and be able to have the freedoms to do what they believe in. Chapter 5 is due process and student safety. Safety of the entire school should be first priority of any administrator. Uses of authority should be reasonable. Some schools do not use metal detectors. In fact, we don't out here, but we just took our kids to a state forensics tournament at Wichita East in Wichita, and metal detectors were outside, and our kids didn't even know how to act about them. They didn't understand what they were all about. So it is a it also kind of depends on where you're at. I'm in a really rural school out in western Kansas, so the student safety thing is a little different than it is in, say, Wichita or Kansas City area. Just because kids are caught with something like drugs, it does not mean that you give up on a kid. It's kids make mistakes. I'm sure I know I did. I know you guys probably know you did, and I'm glad I had teachers and parents that did not give up on me. Excessive authority of teachers. Sometimes, just like a cop or just like anybody with authority, they'll take advantage of that. And as an administrator, I would promote and protect the welfare and safety of all of our students and our staff, and monitor and evaluate the management and operational systems. Make sure I monitor the behavior of teachers as well as students. I think that's big. I've seen that overblown. I'm a football coach and had a language teacher that did not like the game of football, or her son had gotten hurt playing the game of football. So all of a sudden during football, when we were on a good run in 5-0, two of my star players got suspended for goofing around with each other in the hallway, and one of them punched the other kid on the arm, just joking around, and got sent to the office, and my principal had to do what he had to do. And I thought that was a pretty big abuse of authority by that teacher. And as a principal, I would make sure I monitor the behavior of our teachers in that regard as well, and then ensure that teachers and students have time, again, to learn the rules and procedures of the school. Know that they can't bring their hunting rifle in their vehicle. Know that they can't have a knife on them during school. And out here in western Kansas, a lot of our kids go hunt before school, so it's a difficult thing. I've got kids that'll park off campus because of that. So. Liability in student records, this is a big thing. My wife's a counselor, and her confidentiality, a lot of times some people will go in and talk to her and then talk to me later, like my wife was coming home and talking to me, and she doesn't. We separate the office at home, and we need to, because that's a very serious offense if you mess up with student records. But as a building leader, I know there'd be student records that I'd be looking at, and my job would be to monitor and evaluate the management and operational systems, and promote and protect the welfare and safety of all of our students, and promote social justice and ensure that individual students' needs inform all aspects of schooling. Chapter 7 talks about disabilities. We're building a new gym here at Syracuse, and the ADA compliance thing is a big thing, but this chapter was mostly about students with disabilities are entitled to the same opportunities to get an education as anyone else. Teachers should make sure other students are accommodating to disabled students, and it's unbelievable how that has changed since I've been in high school. Used to be our special ed kids were sent to another room and we never seen them, And now it's amazing on how our students are and how they act around that atmosphere and a disabled child, whether it be a mental disability or physical disability. And then all teachers can observe students and pass information on to the proper personnel about special services for specific students. Train your staff to go over those go over everything with your staff and discuss how to contact them, and then listen to them when they walk in and say, "Hey, Johnny's got a problem. Can we look into maybe some special services for that young man?" And as a building leader, I'll safeguard the values of democracy, equity, and diversity, ensure a system of accountability for every student, special ed, whether they have an IEP or not, their academic and social success, and promote social justice and ensure that individual student needs inform all aspects of schooling. Chapter 8 is about teacher and school liability. All the common sense things. For example, make sure students have all the knowledge necessary available to them before participating in all activities. We read a helmet sticker to our kids every year before they start football contact and playing a game of football full contact. We need to let our students know the dangers of certain science experiments. And educators should take measures to keep students from physical or mental harm. Everything you can do to make sure our kids physically and mentally walk out of school healthy. Chapter 9 is about discrimination in employment. We get into a little bit of the negotiated agreement stuff here. In a school, its leaders or its staff cannot show any favoritism to one particular group, i.e. black over white, girl over boy, athlete over drama student. Kind of like that English teacher was to my kid. A teacher has to prove discrimination in court, terminated from a position. We have an issue going on right now here at Syracuse about a teacher that thought she was wrongfully terminated, and she's gotten a lawyer and everything. And I'm going to skip down to number 4 with transgender issues this year at the KIAAA conference. I went to a seminar about transgender issues, and that's something that is getting ready to hit our whole nation in the mouth. A lot of people in Kansas City and Wichita are already discussing issues on separate bathrooms and what person uses what. And I know it's a national scene, but it's also going to come into our schools here before too long as well, and it already is in a lot of the bigger schools. And as a building leader, I will promote and protect the welfare and safety of students, all students, no matter what gender, no matter what beliefs, no matter what anything, and safeguard the values of democracy, equity, and diversity, and advocate for children's families and caregivers. Chapter 10, teacher freedoms. Wow, pretty touchy. There's more freedom in my opinion, for a teacher in a big town than there is in a small town like what I live in. I don't go out and drink in public. I don't go to a Chili's or at a Applebee's and watch a ball game and have a beer. I don't feel like I can. Number one, we don't have a Chili's and we don't have an Applebee's, but I cannot do that. Professional teachers look the part and dress the part. They be professional. The First Amendment gives a teacher the right to speak their mind outside of the district, but they may speak. They may speak of their interest and their interest in the community. I'm a volunteer fireman, so I speak on that behalf, and I speak on social issues here in our community, and am very involved in our community as far as political things. And it's hard to do that and work in a public institute and keep that separated, but I make sure I let everybody know, hey, this is my belief, this is the belief of my district, and make sure your staff knows that. And as a building leader in that regard, I will safeguard the values of democracy, equity, and diversity, and I will consider and evaluate the potential moral and legal consequences of decision making. Both those are ILC standards in our class. And finally, Chapter 11, tenure, dismissal, and negotiations. Tenure does not mean that teachers cannot be dismissed. It just merely means that the valid reason for dismissing you must be given. A school board does not have to give tenure. It is based on your job performance. For example, I was told that I make 3 years, I get tenure. That's not so. In a private sector, teachers are not given equal rights protection, which I did not know before reading Chapter 11. And I learned that the employer must bargain with the recognized bargaining unit. I did not realize that either. With budgets the way they are, I was really surprised that we have to, or as a district, have to deal with that bargaining deal. And then here, as building leader, I will consider and evaluate the potential moral and legal consequences of decision making, advocate for children, family, and caregivers, and act to influence local, district, state, and national decisions affecting student learning. That's it. I'm out of time. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.